And we're live. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Cornell, and you are now tuned in to the Relationship Theater. Thank you so much for attending. Not quite as late tonight as it has been the previous two or three times, and so I'm kind of happy about that. That sort of signals that I'm getting better at this, maybe, perhaps. But I wanted to have a conversation with you all tonight. Um, I realized that we've gone from intention to compromise, and recently we kind of departed from that a little bit. Even though I'm going to tie it all back in at some point, but we departed from that to discuss more the mindset and the framework um, that everyone seems to be operating from by discussing the juxtaposition or juxtaposing the spirit man with the digital man. Uh, and I thought that was a pretty good conversation. I'd like to expand on that a little bit more. Not tonight, though, because I realized that was a departure from where we probably were going previously. So I kind of want to take a couple steps backward and um, kind of recapture that vibe that we had when we were talking about intentions and compromise. And I want to kind of answer some of the questions, dig a little deeper, mine out with married couples who have the right intentions and who are willing to compromise. What do they do? What do they have to do to keep things interesting? And so, you know, when I think about things like that, I think I eventually get to a point where, it all stems from what are um, our shared goals. What direction do we feel like we're going in? You know, and then trying to figure out how each one of us can participate in that together. And so, you know, um, uh, then I go a little bit deeper than that, and maybe I begin to identify um, individual and common life goals, right? So we got shared direction, and then we want to get really specific and granular on what goals do we both have, do we all have, in some cases, um, and so that would be the next thing. And then I started thinking about, okay, we got there, but what are the pitfalls? What are the fears, the kind of frustrations, goals, aspirations, etc., that we might have when we get to that final step? And what I came up with is, or what I hear um, often is that I worry, or I'm scared that my personal goals might clash with my partner's ambitions, and that might lead to conflict or resentment in our relationship. And so, if you think about it, that's kind of a big part of the beef within that red pill kind of argument between men and women, etc. The men are saying that, look, don't ever give up on your goals for a woman, right? And I think the women are feeling the same way. I think the feeling's mutual for both sets of single folks in that community. But like I said, it always comes down to a little bit of compromise, and even in some cases, even though we didn't discuss this, some sacrifice. There are going to be things that you don't get at all. There are going to be things that you give up completely, um, as there are always opportunity costs, just like in economics. There are opportunity costs in relationships as well, right? So um, the question then becomes, have you ever felt like your dreams are, kind of on a collision course with your partner's dreams? I mean, this happens. You know what I mean? It happens. Um, and then you might ask yourself, what if achieving your life goals meant compromising your partner's life goals? You that's a very delicate situation, right? Um, Another thing, do you think it's possible to pursue personal ambitions without sacrificing the harmony in your relationship. Okay. And like I said, it all comes down to communication. It all comes down to intentions. And so, consider the impact of your personal goals on your partner's happiness. Now, this is an important question to ask, an important thing to think about, because in certain cases, your partner is going to want you to be happy. I'll give you a story, at least on my end. This is a personal story. Um, I remember Kevin Samuels saying, "Don't marry a PhD." Well, I didn't marry a PhD, but and that's not true. I did. Well, I didn't marry a PhD, but my wife did get her PhD after we were married, and she would tell you that I sacrificed and I helped her through that particular time period by supporting her. She had to stay up late. I stayed up late. I mean, we would go to 7-Eleven and get coffee together at 12 midnight so that she could finish her paper, so that she could get that second wind. And I would be, doing my thing. I'm not a big movie guy. Maybe I'd be reading a book. Maybe I'd be working on some work that I had going on. As I have several businesses, real estate, etc. At that time, I probably was flipping, or I even had a tea business at one time. But I had plenty of stuff to do. So it wasn't as if it was a true sacrifice in the sense that, I had to take care of the kids while she worked or anything like that. But it was a sacrifice from the standpoint of we sacrificed sleep. And I wanted to make sure that she felt supported, because anybody who's ever been a PhD or gone through those types of programs, they know it's very strenuous, very anxiety filled, stressful, and because at any moment, if you're not doing things the way that the professors or the panel or the board or whatever want you to do it, you might not make it through. So there's a lot of hoops, a lot of hurdles, a lot of obstacles that you're going to have to jump through to get through that. And so she didn't need any additional stress at home worrying about how I was feeling. So we just kind of removed that completely and went all in together. I think another thing that a couple could do, and maybe I can do a video on this along with adding some damn music to this video, but one way you can figure out how your goals align is by creating a type of Venn diagram with your partner. And like in that Venn diagram, what you would do is you would list your individual goals and find where they overlap to identify shared objectives, right? That's the goal. And I'll guarantee you this as well. In doing said exercise, you would also figure out the person's intentions, because there's a lot of work in maintaining and growing a relationship, just like it's a lot of work in maintaining and growing children and anything in life, a plant, a garden. In order for it to be the biggest, best garden there is, you got to go get fertilizer. You got to water it. It's going to cost money to water it. You got to water it more than it rains. You got to pull out the weeds. There's always additional work and effort when you want something to be great. And so, an exercise like this is nothing. You could also schedule regular goal check-ins. So, kind of like become accountability partners. That doesn't work for me. That part, I'm not very good at that, because you have to talk to me a certain way. I have to talk to you a certain way. And it doesn't always work if we live together, but there can be goal check-ins, especially if one or both partners are kind of willing to have those types of conversations. And then you're just gonna practice empathetic listening, man. You know, you gotta listen to what people want, which is something you should have been doing in the very beginning, obviously, to figure out if this was even something you should be involved in, or if the person has the right intentions. Empathetic listening is kind of, at the very basis of this thing. You're going to have to be doing that from the very beginning to figure out if this is the direction you need to be going, if this is the person you want, the partner you want, etc. I think, as I've said before, you want to think of your relationship as a garden and your goals as different plants. And I would say, obviously, some plants are more important than others. And for you on your end and also on your partner's end, but you guys are sharing that garden together. So you've got to, at times when they're absent and they're not available, you've got to help water that plant that is very important to them, and they've got to do that for you as well. So, it's almost like people who have pets in some communities, they don't have to go to the doggy hotel. They just kind of like doggy sit each other's dogs, and it's now your turn because I'm going to have date night, or I'm going to the Bahamas or whatever, and it saves everybody money and resources because we have others who are there to kind of help us with our pets, our goals, our hobbies, etc. And in so doing, you don't expend as much energy. That additional help and support is always welcomed, man. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's one thing. And then, last thing to keep in mind when it comes to this is, ignoring your partner's goals to focus solely on your ambitions, versus, actively engaging and finding intersections between both sets of goals for mutual fulfillment. Right? It's one or the other. Either it's just about me or it's about us both. And that is what you call compromise. And before that, you've got intentions. And I mentioned intentions just to set all of this up. If that's not in their DNA to be supportive of their partner, if they don't want, not that they don't want you to succeed, but if they are coming at this that they want pure support from you and they want you to play a specific role in their lives, but you have other dreams and you're not willing to sacrifice those dreams, then it's not going to work for you guys. And so that, my friends, is the end of the video. Thank you so much. I'd love to hear what you thought or what you think about what it is we discussed today. How do you keep it interesting? I think you keep it interesting by finding the intersections between your goals and theirs, your partner's goals, and helping to hold each other accountable, helping to support each other. These are all important pieces, and you got to remember there are many, 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 many reasons why you should do this. But the most important is most people never make it to the end of their lives or the final seasons of their lives. The only thing that you can have to look back on is what you've built with someone else, or maybe what you built yourself, of course. But you've got to share that with somebody. And the more you can share with somebody, the more they participated in it, not just by supporting you, but how you supported them. The more of that you two have or share, I think the closer you'll be, especially at the end of your lives, in the fall and winter seasons of your life. And this is really the legacy that you can pass on to your children and to your grandchildren, etc. So these are the things I think you want to be known for. And like I said, love to hear what you have to say. Please let me know if I should get some music and create more of a vibe. All feedback is welcome. Peace.